Yes, cool. So it's Thursday market breakdown. Essentially looking at pairs. I'll be honest with you, they're looking very messy. Not my typical sort of structures that I want to be trading right now. I think it's one of those times where it just requires more patience. It's a bit unfortunate because I was hoping by the end of the week we would have something. However, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Staying out of the market is still taking a position. And yeah, just essentially waiting for something to really shape up and look very nice. So looking at the DXY, we've basically broken above this sort of inflection area here. We can see on the 4-hour. On the daily, we saw that we were moving towards this direction, which definitely now that we've broken above and we started creating this level of continuation, I think is very possible. There is the possibility of the ascending out of this. At the moment, we're kind of in that middle section, so I wouldn't be taking any trades in this area at this moment now. At some point it did look like we were going to break below. Perhaps maybe some people were looking at this. I think the better trade would have been to obviously wait for price to break back into here before we even entered, because this is very corrective. Overall, trade is looking pretty good. I wouldn't sort of get caught up in this sort of price action at the moment. I would wait more for a little bit more confirmation, maybe a little stronger push up, break above this sort of area. We're sitting here with a continuation pattern, something a little bit larger, and then we take that to the upside. Would be more favorable for that. Jumping into the watch list, starting with Euro Aussie. So Euro Aussie is a bit of an interesting one. There was this trade here where we essentially were looking at EA to break above here, didn't quite break above, created this very corrective squeeze lower. At that point there, when we created that floor, it kind of looked like this was now becoming a pattern in itself to complete this downside movement, which is great. We came in for the double scoop up, we tapped into this, and this is where there was an entry available, and I'll just zoom in a little bit more. Let's go over here and let's just put on trajectory, and this was the short position. So it was a little bit of a late short position, but the reason for it is I was looking at it on the 1 hour, and before the close I kind of took it a little bit prematurely, but I was quite happy with it. And then it just corrected all the way up happily. Fortunately as well, it still was a bearish candle, completing that sort of evening star at the top of the structure. Very good value area, filling that little gap we were looking at the beginning of the week, and then we committed to the downside. Became more aggressive my management as we came to this area, because I was looking at this structure over here. So as you can see, as soon as we had this, I was then inclined to think, there is the possibility for the 1, 2, 3. We have moved very impulsively. It can continue moving impulsively, but however, if we're going to close with a bullish candle like this, I'm not going to let that one candle dictate the whole trade, but I'm going to be more aggressive with my management. So at that point there, I just decided that I was going to be super aggressive with my management, and then we just kind of corrected, just pushed up, pushed back down, and fortunately it was good. It was a good decision in terms of management to do that, and then we corrected, and it looks like we are confirming this trend line. We've tested it a whole bunch of times, and this isn't the sort of price action I want to be getting involved in at the moment. There was this AFT entry after we had it, which is over here, so I'll just take off this one, put this one on. So we had this AFT entry. On a different day, it could have definitely pushed up a lot further. I mean, looking at it, it was more so like this. Wouldn't have been able to tell that it would have pricked back low, but there was still a few percentage in there, 2% odd, and then it just happened to correct and come back down and then kind of just do its thing. So in terms of risk mitigation, definitely down here was the better place to protect yourself if you wanted to stay into that trade. However, in terms of the risk reward, it wasn't something that I was really looking for. I mean, it was more so like this, and then to the high it was 2% or 2.5%, 4% probably, and then potentially it could have turned into a very big position. However, that's a long-term position, and for what I was looking at, it wasn't a part of the plan. So yeah, that's basically it for EA. I think EA is now one that you just want to just be a little bit more patient with, let it materialize, but I think it's going to be very, very nice. Yeah, this is the structure. Once we reach these areas, I think this is going to become more of as a push, just going to continue going to the upside to fill that gap over here. So one of the reasons why this AFT position was more favorable, it wasn't just taking it in the middle of anyway, it had context behind it, and if that did push aggressively, we would have been in a phenomenal position for that to move. However, those positions don't always turn around, and I wouldn't take any 5-minute entry. I would only take it in a particular area. However, it was coming off this low over here, and we did have a nice little retrace on the 15. So for that reason, it was kind of more so had some level of validity in my opinion, but at the end of the day, it did play out. Next one is New Zealand US dollar. New Zealand US dollar is same with pretty much all the pairs I have on watch at the moment. There isn't really much I can say. It's just very messy in my opinion. Read between the lines. We have a running channel. Is the running channel going to make it to the upside? That's also a possibility. Now, I'm not too sure about how I want to take this, because I'm not looking to take this running channel at all. So if the entry does present itself, it's probably not going to be this week in my opinion. It would be a trade that literally came all the way back down here, tested that, and then we go for the long. That's the sort of trade that I would look for, and only that trade. So for that reason, I don't think it's likely for price to come back down here. And yeah, for that reason, I'm probably going to leave it. Next one is GBP US dollar. Yeah, it's a pity. I mean, price action's just not been great. I think it's just one of those times in the market where price is just doing its thing. Until price gets here, not going to touch it. That's the only area I'm looking at price. This was kind of a good area, but not really. Price only up here. That's the only one I'm looking at. GBP CAD. So we did mention this, I think, on Wednesday or maybe Tuesday breakdown, that it's not uncommon for us to have a big correction like this and then squeeze below and have another correction. But usually a correction of this size, it does make me think. This does definitely shout, potential for something messy, but this can sell off aggressively now. There's enough built up in here for this sell to really go. So I would stay sharp with this. If you were going to take this, I would keep it so simple, honestly. I would literally bang on a stop loss there, and I'll put my position over here, and it would be quite a big position. However, you might be able to get away with rough. Well, this could smash through. There's so much being built up in here right now. I really couldn't say. This could really smash through and create something a little bit larger. Create that ascending channel that you're looking for. Could become a little bit more parallel as well, and it could just smash through and come all the way down here, become a 10% position next thing you know. So I would be sharp and very aware that this could turn into a monster of a position, but due to personal preference, I'm happy to stay out of this one just because of how corrective and messy it is. Euro US dollar, in line with the DXY, we are looking for that long position. However, we can't not see that price is declining. So if price continues to decline, then all of this is not there. This was looking like we had a pullback from here. We had like a retrace over here. We had the retrace, push up, and then we were creating this sort of flag and clearer on the 15. And I was thinking, this is a very strategic area to be entering the market as well. However, price just had no commitment and just continued to push lower. So once again, for that reason, I just won't get involved in Euro USD. I'll leave it until later, until something else is more clear and apparent. If I was going to take this, it would literally have to give me something significant now, and then I would be waiting for that large flag up there. Let's call it large, medium size, 1 hour. Euro Japanese yen, Japanese, okay, Japanese yen. To be honest, I haven't really looked at this much. I missed the opportunity over there, and then since then there just wasn't really anything I could see. We can see that obviously we are gravitating to the high. That's very obvious. This was probably the only trade that I could have seen, really and truly. Yeah, I don't think there's any other trade that I would have taken besides this one, to be honest. call it 15. You could see some stuff in there, but it's just not my typical sort of jump out at me and say, hey, listen, there's opportunity in here, you know. Yeah, this is the sort of trade I would have taken, probably around about here. Squeeze it a little bit tighter if you want to. Yeah, you'd be running. Oh, it's the wrong way around. Always do that. So yeah, about 5%, and you locked in. Yeah, I'd lock in around about here anyway. So about 3%. Looks good. Trade looks good. Still moving up. I think if you look at it right now, actually, it looks like we are inside this sort of area of a flag. So how would you take it? Tricky. It's just not my typical price action again, you know. I would look at it on the 1 hour. Definitely I'll try read between the lines and then just try see what's going on. But like I said, I need some floors, I need some touches, I need 2 bottoms, 2 tops. There's some criteria that's not being met, so I'm not going to touch that. Moving on to the next one, which is wildcards EuroCAD. EuroCAD is looking pretty nice. It's in a good value area. It's just unfortunate that we're not ready yet, so we just have to stay sharp with this. Pushing up, correcting, haven't really done anything. We'll come for a retest, maybe M-star sort of style. Not quite sure when we're going to be going, but all we have to know is that when we do get, you know, call it a push down and a push back up, a flag, and we go, you know, that's what we kind of want to really look for. Obviously there'll be some more consolidations on the way up, but that's basically all I'm looking for. So solid push up, doesn't matter how far down it goes, as long as it comes back in, pushes back up, get into that flag. Aussie CAD, same situation. I think it's a mistrade for me. The trade was up in this area here. There wasn't really much opportunity within that. I think there was 1 flag, but I probably wouldn't have opted in for it anyway, or I probably did see it and I didn't opt in for it anyway. And it was pretty much in this region here, where it kind of just lined up here. And then I would have seen this, and I would have been like, at the time, I think, you know, you'd see that impulsive move, and it might put you off, really and truly. It might really put you off. Like for me, you know, this angle was coming all the way up here, so yeah, it's just it's not one that jumps out to me and says, hey, this is a good trade. So Aussie CAD's not really been much of a big opportunity for me. And then we look at how it developed further down on the 4 hour. We are now all the way down here. If we do somehow just impulse up here and then come down, create a flag, keep it clean, yeah, cool. That's me, but probably the only way. Otherwise, I'll just be waiting for this to drop off now, tap into that low and see how it reacts. CAD is in prime area. I think CAD is probably one that I think, and I know from experiences, you just need to be so patient in these areas. It will do its thing, it'll go mental, but when it reveals its cards, opportunities will start flying at you. And I'll just show you an example. For example, let's say price, you know, just got very messy, did all this stuff, and then we got to this value area here, we broke above. And I go to the 1 hour. So we look at it here, and then we broke above this section here. Say you were looking at, you know, all of these different scenarios, and then price just continued being impulsive, and then we're, let's say, over here on the hourly, and we're like, okay, we need to be patient. Price does its thing, you know, it starts moving, starts creating all these different situations are happening, and then price pushes off. You get this impulsive push down. At that point there, we get some sort of squeeze. Obviously, these ones are not the easiest to determine, but they were there. And then we have this, and then we had the squeeze. There is the possibility for this, and then you can mitigate your risk above the high there. Or you could take the small flag in here, but really and truly, it's optional, and then you could have been involved for the trade. Obviously, in my opinion, it's not a bad trade. It requires a lot of patience. And then presenting itself again, you know, there's always not the cleanest, not my type of trade there, but you know, there's some trades in there. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, KJN's got a lot of opportunities. Just you need to wait and be sharp. Those highs is where you want to get involved anyway. You know, I'm a risk entry person when it comes to this particular pair. I'm interested in these areas mostly, but understanding that, you know, like mentioned a lot of times, sometimes we have these liquidity areas, and if we do start to gravitate here, I wouldn't be surprised if we start taking out this area and then we just move up, and then next thing you know, we're so close to this high, it's a bit of an off-put one. So that's why I'm more favorable for the short from here, but you have to understand that we can come up to here, and then next thing you know, we might get a bit more corrective, and then we spike up, and then we start going. So there's a few possibilities, and I wouldn't just change your full bias on going short right now. I would just be extra patient with it, because I think there's possibilities, especially looking at some of the other Euro pairs. There's some bull move in it, so stay sharp. I think, yeah, this is a phenomenal pair. It's not quite ready today. It will be ready very soon though. We have two ways of taking this. We have this sort of mini double top high over here, just below it, but because of how close it is, I wouldn't get fixated on this. I would wait for the key area, set the alert, and if the alert goes off, you know what to do. And that's where my main focus will be. Obviously, we have to understand that we do have these sort of liquidity areas just above it as well, so we can push above and tap into that. We can even go further. We don't have to tap into that. We can actually go a little bit further and come from there. So understand that these are also possibilities of areas, but mostly important, this is our main focus. Do not deviate away from the plan. The plan is to literally wait for this area to be tapped into to see how it reacts. Is there any supporting structures? Can we see anything that supports this? Well, can we see anything within this? You know, any patterns within the pattern? Not at this current